Hi, my name is Matt Law. A little bit about myself before we start class. I've been a diesel mechanic for the last almost 10 years. I've worked at dealerships, I've worked at fleet maintenance, I've done a little bit of everything when it comes to diesels. I've worked for International for a little while, worked for Dancorp Transit doing fleet maintenance. Worked on everything from Internationals to Kenworths to Peterbilts to Volvos, which are not fun to work on. Today we're going to be covering the fuel air issue associated with diesels. This means from the turbocharger to the intercooler to the intake, kind of where it all routes, and some issues to look for if you run into a low power issue. We'll start right here at the front. This is your intercooler, also known as charged air cooler. It basically cools the air off as it runs through it. The air passes over it and it cools the air that has been compressed by the turbocharger. We'll go through the routing first and then go through the issues. So if you want to follow me inside the bus. Probably going to be a little easier to hear me in here too. This is a Cummins 24 valve motor. Same thing you'll find in a Dodge pickup truck. So right here we have our piping for our fresh air. That's your fresh air inlet. It goes through your turbo, and as your turbo spins, it compresses the air, and when air gets compressed, it gets really hot. So it's got to have a way to cool itself off to function properly. So it runs back up front through this pipe right here into that air cooler or intercooler that we just saw out front. After the air gets cooled off, it runs over here into your intake. Now, a lot of your low power issues can be solved strictly by checking your intake system. The most common one is usually these boots right here will tear and let either compressed air out or fresh air in, which either way is not a good thing because then it's going to work inefficiently. You can have a loss of boost pressure, so your turbo, this little thing right here, will not produce the amount of PSI going into your motor that it needs to effectively power the motor. Let's see. For troubleshooting, the first thing you're going to check for is if the air filter is clean, which on this bus it sits outside right under there. If your air filter is dirty, it can either restrict airflow or suck the dirty junk into the motor. Either one of those two scenarios is not a good thing. A lot of times, if you're running into low power, it's because your turbo is not spinning effectively. meaning it's not putting the boosted air into the motor at either the correct PSI or at no PSI. So you're also going to want to check for vacuum leaks, which goes back to these torn boots that I was telling you about. There's a boot right here, and there's a boot over there on the intake. And if either one of those are torn, it will suck air into the compressed side of the turbo and render the compressed air useless. Here in your slides, you'll see a good example of a vacuum leak. There's a rubber hose that's got a cut in it, and it lets air into a vacuumed system or a pressurized system, either way. I believe that's all for the inside of the motor. Let's go back outside.